Special Topics 2 Test 2. And this right here, we'll be talking about some alternative fuel stuff. You guys know what alternative fuels are, right?
Biodiesel, fossil fuels, corn, ethanol.
Ethanol, yeah. It takes, you could take the ethanol that it takes to fill up a SUV. If you filled up a pure ethanol, you could feed a family with a year, for a year off the corn you had to use to make it. All right, let's talk here about the Special Topics 2 Test 2. Let's jump right into this thing. Winter blend gasoline does what? Vaporizes more easily than summer blend, can cause engine drivability problems if used during warm weather. Weather has a higher Reid vapor pressure, or all of the above. That's a D. That's an all of the above. Reid vapor pressure is something we used to check when I was at the Ford place, and we would take like a coffee cup and put some water about 160 degrees in there. And anyway, this little chamber, we'd put some gas in it, and then we put a gauge on that chamber, and we put the chamber down in the hot water, and after a given amount of time, we could measure the Reid vapor pressure, how much pressure it gained based on temperature, you know. So that's something you probably won't ever get cooked up in. Vapor lock can occur. What? Yeah. Who's ever experienced vapor lock? Vapor lock. What's vapor lock? A result of excessive. Yeah, you can. I mean, if the fuel lines used to, if you had a metal fuel lines running close to the exhaust, it would start boiling that gas in there, and then air starts going into your carburetor, or even your fuel injectors. It's less likely to happen on a fuel-injected engine. Why? Because the fuel's under more pressure. It's not that it can't happen, it's just that it's less likely to. Something else that happens when you switch the car off, if it's not holding good solid pressure at the injectors when you switch the car off, then what will happen is that fluid, the heat will cause it to expand. There'll be air bubbles in there, and you'll have a hard start, and all that kind of stuff. And so if you got a hard start hot, but it runs good other than that, look for a problem with usually the fuel pump lets the pressure bleed off. The fuel pressure regulator can cause that. Technician A says a spark, knock, ping, and detonation are different names for abnormal combustion. Technician B says any abnormal combustion raises the temperature and pressure inside the combustion chamber. It can cause severe engine damage. Now, what's happening when you got, you ever heard anybody talk about what they call valve clatter? You ever heard anybody say that? Valve clatter? You know, like whenever your bad gas causes it to make a ling-ling-ling-ling a noise when you're accelerating up a hill or something. You know, you ever heard that? I mean, anybody that's driven for very long has probably heard it. If they've driven a lot of junky cars like the ones that I drove, yeah, when you're rattling, it rattles, the engine rattles when you're going up a hill pulling, or you're pulling hard in hot weather. That's detonation, labor knock. Basically what's happening is the heat and the pressure is causing the gasoline to light off before the piston gets up, even up close to top dead center, and that flame front hits the top of that piston and makes it ring like a bell. Yeah, you just gotta, if you got carbon in this combustion chamber that has caused the compression to get too high, that'll cause it. And carbon in there can also make it diesel when you shut it off if there's still fuel being delivered. You know, in fuel injected vehicles, you don't usually have carburetors, you did. But something else you got, if your engine's running a little bit too hot for some reason, if the EGR is not working, if the timing is advanced too much, see, all of that stuff if you got your timing advanced too much, it'll labor knock, ping. If it's running too hot, it'll detonate. You ever heard one? Have you ever been driven one that was running really, really, really hot and about to quit running? You'll hear that knocking. You'll hear that detonation going on in those cylinders. And that's what that is. I mean, it's good to be able to pick that out and know what you're listening to. But, you know, carbon in a combustion chamber, timing is too fast, engine running slightly too hot, that kind of thing. Let's see. Yeah, number 3 is actually a C, yeah. Both of them. Technician A says research octane number is higher than the motor octane number. And Technician B says the octane rating posted on fuel pumps is the average of the two ratings. You know, which one is correct about that? That's both, and I don't know how many times you guys have seen this, but it will say R plus M divided by 2. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
On a gas pump? Yeah. Research plus motor divided by 2. It's the average of those two readings, what it is. And so basically there's two different ways they... Yeah, this is basically, yeah, research plus motor divided by 2. That's right. That's an average of the two numbers. That's why the R plus M divided by 2. All right. So Technician A says that 4 was actually a C. Technician A says going into high altitudes, engines produce lower power. Technician B says most engine control systems can compensate the air-fuel mixture for changes in altitude.
Technician A is right.
Yeah, and technician, both of them are right. Whenever you got a barometric pressure sensor on a vehicle, it's there for a reason. Believe it or not, some of them are built into the engine controller, some of them are built into the map sensor, some of them are interpolated from the mass airflow. So barometric pressure. Who in here has driven a car with a carburetor on it at high altitude? Like you go on a trip to the mountains or something, on an older car with a carburetor on it? That thing runs like crap when you get up in the mountain. I mean, when you get up in a high altitude, it won't hardly pull your head off. Makes you plumb ashamed of it.
Real slow, too.
Yeah, it is. It is. You just got to get put on. I mean, you'd be real proud of the way the car runs at sea level. The higher the altitude goes, the worse it runs. You got to advance the ignition time and enrich the fuel mixture.
That's the first time that made sense to me, because that didn't happen.
You felt it, hadn't you? You go up there with one with a carburetor on it. Some of you other guys have driven vehicles with carburetors on it, but there's a huge, gigantic number of drivers out there that have never sat in the seat of a car with a carburetor on it. And there's more of them that has never had to pull a choke to start a vehicle, you know. All right. Remember old Sanford and Son, whenever his boy was going to leave and he's out trying to get the old truck started, no, Red Fox stuck his head out the door and said, pull that choke, yes, it won't stop. You know, he's trying to get him to go and leave. Okay, we're going to, let's see, Technician A says going to, excuse me, never mind, 6. The point is, modern engines make adjustments to the timing and fuel, mixture for changes in altitude. They do that. But up to 4,000 feet. Now, above that, you have to have special modification. Which method of blending ethanol with gasoline is the most accurate? Sequential, splash, inline? What? C. Inline. What can be used to measure the alcohol content in gasoline? Number 7. Now, we got into that in Engine Performance 1. Basically, you can either use A or B, a graduated cylinder or an electronic tester. Number 8, to avoid problems. The reason I'm moving fast, I got some really cool hybrid stuff I'm going to show you guys from Toyota that's really, really neat. That I have permission from Toyota that I can use. I'm not going to put it on YouTube though. Sorry, because I don't have the authority to put it on YouTube, but I can show my class. All right, now let's see. Let me see. Where are we at here? Now, to avoid problems with the variation of gasoline, all government testing uses blank as fuel during testing procedures. What do they use? They use D, Endolene. This is the time when I like to tell that story about way back in 1983 or 82. It was 82, I guess. I was actually driving this Volkswagen Bug. I had money in my pocket. I had $50 in my pocket, and I had my daughter and my son in the car with me. And I was in Port Arthur, Texas, and I was driving on that back road back there behind Texaco Research, and a bunch of labs and stuff up and down that way where they do all this lab stuff. And the dadgum car ran out of gas. And I said, boy, I was an idiot. I passed the gas station a quarter of a mile back, and so I left my son and daughter in the car, and I said, y'all sit here and keep your mouth shut. Of course, Matt was a little teeny thing. He was probably, that was 80. He was born in 82, so it was in the last part of 82. He's still in diaper. But I left him and daughter in the car, and I walked over here to one of these buildings, and I said, I need be able to get some gas some kind of a way. I don't know what it is. Guy had a lab coat, when I knocked on the door. And he went and got a big old bottle with a big cork in the top of it, and on the front of it, it said toluene. Now, this guy was working in a Texaco research lab, right? So I felt like he probably knew a little something. So he hands me this bottle, and he says, pour that in there, it'll run off of that. So I went back and poured it in there, and fired it up, and I drove back to the gas station. And as long as that stuff was in there, that car ran better than it ever did with regular gas. I mean, it didn't hurt a thing, Toluene, but Endolene is what they use here. Okay, now, number 9, avoid topping the fuel tank because what? If you keep going click, 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 shaking the car, click, 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 shaking the car, click, 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 shaking the car, what happens is it can work its way through the vapor line, the one that's into your canister, saturate the canister, and then when your engine PCM decides to purge the canister, it's sucking raw gas in there, and then the motor will try to die. And it causes you to run ragged because you're sucking gas out of a saturated canister that you saturated when you're packing the gas in. Not a good way to do, all right? So basically, that's number 9 is A. You can saturate the charcoal canister. Using ethanol enhanced or reformulated gasoline can result in reduced fuel economy. That is A. That's what's really interesting. If you guys, you guys have a graduated cylinder with 10 graduations on it. I can show you how to check and see if it's got alcohol in it. It'd be interesting to go to all these stations that says contains 10% alcohol and just see how much is in there. You'd be surprised, a lot of them ain't got no alcohol in them. It says it may contain up to 10%, but a lot of them, when you check them, they ain't got no alcohol in there. Now, huh? Yeah, it may contain alcohol. Not a big deal. They just want to have the license to put it in there if they want to.
I've got a question for you. That probably got nothing to do with pay. How that truck work?
Which one? Huh?
You got 3 grades of fuel on there, but you got 1 pipeline in the ground.
Well, you basically got different tanks on the truck. I mean, it's divided.
They're connected to the same pump?
Yeah, basically, you actually turn some valves a different way. I mean, when you change the valve this way and it's pumping out of that tank, you change them. And I know that because I piped one of them trucks one time.
Okay.
I mean, they actually, that's, here I am, 21 years old, and they say, here, you got to put this tank on this truck, and you got to put out this pipe and all this meters and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have the option of saying, I don't know how to do this. They said, get it done. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I got it done. And I checked that thing out when we put helicopter fuel in it, when we sold it at helicopter place. I got up on top of the truck, and I made sure I'd pump it out of the same tank I was pumping back into. Those old big old tank, like you. And I pulled the trigger on that thing, and when I let go of it, it had pumped 45 gallons in 30 seconds. Felt like a rocket. I mean, PTO on the side. I had to mount the PTO thing on the side of it. You learn all kinds of stuff. If you get forced into a situation where you have to do stuff that you don't think you can do, that's when you get, your learning curve just takes off, You rise to the challenge. Unless you're a wuss, and then you fall on your face. Okay, now then, let me see. Pump octane is rated by what? Pump octane is rated by what? That's D. Neither A nor B. There's no only there. When you put only, that pretty well disqualifies. When somebody says only or always or something like that on a test, just throw that out. 1 horsepower requires how much fuel per hour? Now that's an interesting to see. That's D. That's a half a pound of fuel per hour. Did you know that engineers actually rate fuel by weight, by poundage, by instead of, like we think of gallons because that's how we buy it. But whenever you're engineering something, they talk about how many pounds of fuel per hour. The injectors on your fuel-injected cars are rated in pounds of fuel per hour. Like on the old Fords, the orange one was a 19 pound per hour fuel injector, and the gray one was a 14 pound per hour fuel injector. I don't know what the rest of them were, but I do remember those two from the little handout we got from Ford. But they talk about pounds per hour. So when you talk about pounds of fuel, how do the jets do it? They don't measure it by a gallon when they pump it into your fighter plane. They measure it by how many tons of fuel they're putting in there. I mean, that's by weight, right? Technician A says using lower octane fuel in vehicles designed for premium fuel will cause a serious engine damage. Okay. Technician B says some octane boosters will cause discoloration of the porcelain on spark plugs. This is an interesting deal here. Lower octane fuel won't typically cause serious engine damage. Higher octane fuel, if it's supposed to run 87 and you're running higher octane though, it can make it run like crap when it's cold, fall on its face, pop, snort, cut up. If it's made to run 87 octane, you put 93 in there, you're liable to have a cold drivability problem. Furthermore, since it burns slower than regular gas, it's not more explosive, it's less explosive. It actually causes carbon buildup on the inside of the combustion chambers. There's TSBs that Ford and Chrysler put out and said, don't use premium fuel if it's supposed to have regular in it, because you can make trouble for yourself if you do that. A lot of times you think, well, it's got more detergent in it to make my motor run cleaner, and they have pictures on there and all that, but on top of the pistons where your trouble comes, not on the back of the valve, all that kind of thing. But I've seen that stuff. But anyway, octane booster, my brother had a 71 Thunderbird, the one that got in that picture out there, and it had one of them 375 horsepower 429s in it like they made for the Mustang, but they dropped it in the Thunderbird that year. And that thing was popping and snorting and cutting up, wouldn't run right, and I pulled the spark plugs out, and those things were just rusty red looking. I said, what the sound hill is this? He said, well, I don't know. It may have something to do with that octane booster I've been pouring in there. And then later on, we put new plugs in it, ran great. And I said, quit using that stuff. But, mess up plug. And it stained them. Well, this other Mustang, it was nearly a new one, this old man had like 11,000 miles on it. It was surging and cutting up. We pulled them out. They looked the same way. And I told Donnie, I said, hey, I was using an octane booster. Because my brother's car, I saw that, And the guy said, oh yeah, I pour it in there every time I gas up. I said, well, stop doing that and you'll quit having this trouble. We got to put plugs in there, Well, you know what they used to use, the old hot rodders in my when I was a young boy, they put them mothballs in there. Yeah, raise the octane a little bit. All right, so let me see. Which of the following additives is used to convert CO emissions to CO2? D, MTBE, EPD.
13 was
Huh?
both were No, neither, I meant neither.
Yeah.
Huh? Say it again now?
13 was neither.
13 was neither.
With the octane boost and the...
Well, no, Technician B's right on that one. That should be a B. It will discolor the porcelain on spark plugs. I mean, that's what I was just talking about. And my brother, you remember how I told you they look rusty? Technician A says water will sink to the bottom of the fuel tank. Is he true or is he false? Technician B says water mixes with alcohol. What about that? Both those guys are right. Water will mix with alcohol. The president of college one time was telling me on his old 91 Dodge four-wheel drive truck, he said, when I make a curve, my motor tries to cut off on me. And so I said, well, you got some water in there, you know. Whenever you slosh out water, and back then when the fuel pickup was about a couple inches off the bottom of the tank, you know, the water would all, and after a while you get enough water in there where you'd have a big ocean of water in there going around, and every now and then to drink some water when you go around a curve. That kind of stuff. Well, you can run some, you can't do this every time you run a tank of gas, but you pour some denatured alcohol in there, you know, about a pint or so, and it'll pick that alcohol up, mix it with the gas, and it'll just go on through. Now, it depends on how much water you got in there. Nowadays, they suck right off the bottom of the tank, so it'll vacuum that water out before there's enough to do any damage. I mean, the thing is drawing fuel right off the bottom of the tank. Yours is pulling about this far off the bottom on the truck.
Yeah.
But see, that's the old ones used to be. But now they got spring-loaded. They got pumps either mounted to the bottom of the tank or they're spring-loaded and pushed against the bottom of the tank, so that as soon as any water gets in there at all, because there's condensation, it's going to run down. You know, over time. If you run your vehicle empty of gas all the time, you're going to have more water in it, because the part where there's not gas is going to, you know, run down in there. All right, so, all right, let's see. Let's drop on down here and hurry up. Yeah. Let's number 15 is actually C. That's actually both of them. Higher altitudes, the octane requirement for automobile fuel, is it higher or lower? It's actually lower. It's lower, yeah, because it needs to burn faster. There's not as much oxygen there. Lower octane means faster burning fuel. If it gets really low, the lower you go, the closer you're going to getting the dynamite, man. That's why if you got really bad fuel, like labor knocks and pings, because it's more explosive. That's bad stuff. Technician. Oh, I will tell you this though: if the fuel gets bad enough, on that Escort one time, we let it sit out a little too long without any fuel stabilizer in it, and the fuel turned sour. That car wouldn't even start. Nothing wrong with it. So we drain the gas out of it, put it in the junk gas drum back here, put some fresh gas in it. How many? I've had a lawnmower do that. Lawnmower been setting up. You know, gas smells terrible. Pour the gas out because it wouldn't start. Pour fresh gas in it. It's like cars do the same thing. That's why fuel quality test is really important when you're doing drivability work. And also knowing how to check it for alcohol, because sometimes people will put the E85 stuff in a regular car to save money, and it'll run like trash. They won't tell you they done that. They get in here and it's running really bad. You go ahead and get you some gas out there and check it, and you find out sometimes it's 60-70% alcohol. You know, because they put that E85 in it when they weren't supposed to. Some people say, well, that's cheaper. I'm going to put some of that in there, see.
That's for flex fuel, isn't it?
Huh? Yeah, it's for flex fuel
Does your
vehicles.
engine have to be...
It's got to be set up for it. Yeah, exactly right. If you ain't set up for it, But you know, we got some flex fuel vehicles here. That little Dodge Stratus that we work on, that belongs to the college, is flex fuel. They don't say nothing on there. But if you look up the serial number, yeah, it's flex fuel. Okay. Now let me see here. Technician A says drivability problems may be avoided by using top-tier gasoline. Technician B says drivability problems may be avoided by always keeping the fuel tank filled to the top of the filler neck. A is right. We'll keep it at the top of the filler neck. What term describes the process of lowering the boiling point of a hydrocarbon by exposing it to different environmental treatments such as hydrogen-enriched catalysts or high temperatures? Now that's a complicated question, isn't it? Number 18. Cracking. That's what we were talking about last week. Technician A says hydrocracking is used mostly in the manufacture of diesel fuel. Technician B says thermal cracking produces high-quality gasoline suitable for today's engines. Which technician is correct? That's A. That is A. I read somewhere on a little internet article, I read how they can take carbon dioxide out of the air and turn it back into gasoline. All right. It's got some heavy-duty technology to do that. Ethanol can be produced from what products? What else?
Switchgrass.
And switchgrass. And sugarcane. Any of the above. 21. E85 means the fuel is made from what? That's D. 85% ethanol and 15% gasoline. And the earlier cars had a special sensor on there that would change its output to the PCM depending on because all the gas would flow through that sensor. and several of the car makers had them on there. But then they got smart and they said we can just set it up so that using oxygen sensor input and whatnot, we can figure out. Now, why would it be a good idea to buy a flex fuel car? If you had two cars that were the same price and they were both, I mean, just alike, and one of them was flex fuel and the other one wasn't, why is it a good idea to buy one that's flex fuel? The injectors, the fuel lines, the gas tank, and all are better quality on a flex fuel car. They have to be to withstand that alcohol. So you're going to get higher quality injectors and everything on yours. Yours is flex fuel in it. Pat yourself on the back. You made a good choice. There you go. You ever use that E85 in it? And how's it work? Pretty good? Lousy gas mileage? Is it lousy mileage when you pour that in there? Can't tell the difference?
When I drove mine, I had the same truck as him, like 2 years ago. I could tell when I put 87 in, or if I put like E85, the engine sounds quieter when I put E85 in the wood.
Yeah, different the combustion properties. There you go. That's kind of like, you know, what does it do if I open an EGR valve on an engine like these we got out here? If I open the EGR valve while it's running, what happens? You guys know that. You get it from last semester. Huh? It runs rough as a dog. I mean, like that. Well, if you do it, you know how a diesel sits there and it's rattling? Well, if you open the EGR valve on a diesel, it gets quiet. It's interesting how that works. And, okay, here we go. What number are we on, guys? I missed it. Our flex fuel vehicle can be identified by VECI, the emblems on the side, VIN, any of the above. That's 22 is the D. That's the only way you can tell on that silly little car I was just talking about is with a VIN, you know. Methanol is also called what? Wood alcohol, methyl hydrate, methyl alcohol. All those are right. 24. Which alcohol is toxic? Dangerous. Which do you not? If you drink it, you shall surely die. Methanol. Methanol is poison. Which is the most widely used alternative fuel?
Propane.
What do you think, guys? Propane sound good to y'all?
Yeah.
That's right. 26. Liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, is also called what? Propane. How much compressed natural gas does it require to achieve the energy of 1 gallon of gasoline?
130.
130 cubic feet. How did he know this? How do you know these things? He's just guessing.
Believe it or not, I didn't know. I just don't know.
I did not say you didn't know anything.
I know, I'm just saying, I know it. No, because we got a front end loader, runs off propane. I have to figure stuff out.
He's a real hale and hearty guy, isn't he? All right. When, when refueling a CNG vehicle, why is it recommended the tank be filled to a high pressure? The range of the vehicle is increased. Duh. Producing liquid fuel from coal or natural gas usually uses which process? That's D. Fischer-Tropsch, if you want to say it that way. Technician A says stoichiometric ratio for gasoline is about 9 to 1. That's dead wrong. Technician B says stoichiometric ratio for ethanol is 9 to 1. Which technician is correct? B. B is correct. 9 to 1 is the stoichiometric ratio for ethanol. Stoichiometric means the balance where you get the cleanest burn.
How do you get 9 to 1 then?
I don't understand the question. I mean, you're talking about.
What is it standing for? What is it like 9?
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's like by weight. By weight, in other words, 9 parts air to 1 part fuel. If you want by volume, a car burns 9,000 gallons of air for 1 gallon of fuel. If you're going by volume, right? But we're basically doing it by weight. Remember, I told you engineers use fuel by weight. Same thing. Okay, number 31. Using ethanol enhanced or reformulated gasoline can result in reduced fuel economy.
True.
They actually are claiming that's false, but I don't agree with that. But whatever. Say false if you want to get the question right. I mean, they'll tell you that all over the place, you know. All right, number 32, excuse me. Of the alternative fuels listed in the text, which has the highest octane, excuse me. The highest octane, 32. Compressed natural gas, believe it or not, CNG, yeah. Compressed natural gas, highest octane. Technician A says vehicles capable of using 100% ethanol are known as flex fuel vehicles. Wrong. Technician B says these vehicles are unable to achieve 100 horsepower. 33 SD, neither one of them. Which is not a possible effect of using gasoline with alcohol additives? Not a possible effect. Increased octane, increased volatility, reduced CO emissions, and then number 34. That's D. Okay, a vehicle burning CNG loses about what percentage power compared to gasoline?
10.
10's good. The stoichiometric ratio should be ratio, not ration, for CNG. B. 16.5 to 1. An engine designed to burn compressed natural gas may include what design modifications?
Lighter and
How about increased compression ratio? They're trying to give it a little more power. A flex fuel vehicle has enhanced fuel system components that include all of these except A, stainless steel fuel rails, B, corrosion resistant fuel pump. What am I telling you a while ago, Mr. Webb? C, low temperature resistant O-rings, or D, corrosion resistant fuel injectors. 38 is C. It does not have low temperature resistant O-rings. What would I need that for? And number 39, a flex fuel vehicle uses PCM to make adjustments to the engine according to the percentage of ethanol in the fuel. The PCM must suggest which engine settings must be adjusted. How about A and B, ignition timing and the quantity of fuel delivered. And number 40, ethanol can also be called grain alcohol. Good answer. Okay, that completes that little test, and I'm going to show you these videos.